Hello and welcome to ACS Golf and today's video, which is a versus video, which I love doing for you guys. If you're new to the channel, basically what I'm going to be doing is putting one club versus another club and seeing who is going to win, with the idea generally that it's going to be an older model versus a newer model to see if there really is that much difference from the perspective of an average golfer such as myself. 10.9 handicap at the moment. I'm not going to be hitting the middle of the face every single time. So you guys can go and save yourself some money by going, well, hold on, I don't need to spend 300, 400 pounds on a brand new TaylorMade driver. I can go and get, the M2 for 100 quid a couple of years ago and have exactly the same performance. So there you go. That's the idea about these versus videos. I've done a few already, so do check them out on the channel. And today we're looking at Cobra, and we are looking at the Cobra ltdx, which I've done a review on for you guys already. So do check the channel out for that. From 2022, this is the blacked out version, which is basically a limited edition, but exactly the same. No difference to the original. It's not the Max and it's not the LS, it's just your standard ltdx. And then against this, the Long Tom driver from 2012. Review for this guy, so I will do more of an in-depth review on this. Will be coming out in a couple of weeks, so remember to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you don't miss a review on this, because to be honest, I very much enjoyed hitting that. So yes, so let's get into it. But before we do, as always with my versus videos, what I tend to do is if it's drivers, which majority of the time it has been so far, I tend to take the driver head out and put it in the same shaft so that we have exactly the same sort of shaft in each, same loft, etc. So it's a fair battle in my mind. But there is an issue with this, because in this case, the Long Tom shaft is secured. So I cannot take the Long Tom head out and put it in this Cobra shaft for the ltdx, which is a bit annoying. I have lofted them both down to 9 degrees, so they are 9 degrees because this is what this is set at. So if you see there, the ltdx is set at minus 1.5 to 10.5 degree head, so it is at 9. But I can't change the shaft. And this is what's going to make this a little bit more interesting as well, because the whole point of the Long Tom was that when it came out, it was the maximum allowance for length of a club that you could have, apart from the putter that is, that you could have in your bag. The whole point of the Long Tom was that it was a club at 48 inches long. Now your modern drivers, now the maximum is normally about 46. Normally they're about 45, say, I don't know, 3/4 inches long normally now. A few of them are 45 and I think half or even a bit lower than that. So 45 and 1/4 inches long. So this is a lot longer than this, and you can see there. Now, don't get me wrong. I will say straight off the bat, this isn't a 48-inch driver shaft. Unfortunately, someone has cut this down to 47.75 inches. Why? Why would you take off that 0.25 inches? But there you go. It is quite difficult to find this as a 48-inch long driver because the rules have changed when this came out. Don't get me wrong, you're still allowed a 48-inch driver, but under current regulations, there is local rules where they can basically go, we don't want this at our course, which majority of them have done. So you will probably find places or competitions, well, you won't find competitions, I doubt it very much, but you might find courses which still allow a 48-inch driver, but majority of them have changed it to the rule that it can only be 46 inches long. So do be aware of that. But there you go. So it's going to make it really interesting, because it's also going to bring in the fact of, does a longer shaft help with the club? So it's going to be interesting, those numbers. So as you can see, a lot of difference there. But anyway, let's get to the range. Let's throw some numbers at you, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you who I think the winner is. So here I am down at the range with a Long Tom and the ltdx. The first 6 shots are actually with the Long Tom, and then the last 3 are with the ltdx. Just down to the software, which ones get picked up, to be honest, on a very cold and wintry day. You can see the fog there. Anyway, first off, let's go into the ltdx numbers. So on average, I had a carry of 229 yards, total distance of 261 yards, ball speed 148 miles per hour, launch angle 11 and height 64 degrees, and a club head speed of 96 miles per hour. Now going on to the Long Tom,
On average, I had a carry of 233 yards, total distance of 259 yards, ball speed of 146 miles per hour, launch angle 10 degrees and a height 68 feet, and a club head speed, interesting, 101 miles per hour, which is, well, great and as expected with that longer shaft. Just going in sort of the average is really what I would expect from my driver, anything above that sort of 250 mark on average, so both of them have beaten that well and truly. Ball speed around 150 miles per hour, so a little bit less there, but don't get me wrong, like I mentioned, it was a very cold day, so obviously I feel like the balls at the range were affected by this. I wasn't quite getting the numbers perhaps when it came down to ball speed that I would be expecting, and I definitely wasn't swinging as fast as I normally would, because normally on average with a club the length size of the Cobra, it'd be around 98 miles per hour. As I mentioned before, the Cobra was only 96 miles per hour, so it's about 2 miles per hour slower, which is down just being cold and being a little bit tight.
So there you go, some figures from a very cold day in the UK. I'm going to say this in degrees, so apologies to anyone in America or anywhere else watching this in the UK, but it's only about 3 degrees when I was doing that, so very cold indeed. And yeah, one thing I will say straight off the bat before we get into those figures and go into a bit more detail, having a longer shaft definitely did not help with consistency. I was all over the place with this, all over it. You know, when I first hit the club, I was slicing it. Then I was getting that draw and hitting it straight. But with the ltdx, I was very consistent with it. Always a draw shot, actually, which when I had this in a bag, which I did myself at the beginning of the year, I did find that. So very consistent driver. Don't get me wrong, I got used to the length of this and I did manage to get it more straight and to that draw in the end, but it did take some time to get used to. But now going into the figures, let's start off with the club head speed, because that's the main thing there when it comes down to different lengths of this shaft. And as I mentioned already, it's very cold. So normally I'd be swinging around that sort of 97 miles per hour, 98 miles per hour on average. On the day though, with the normal length shaft, I was only swinging 96 miles per hour. On the longer length, it was 101, so 101 miles per hour. So I was getting with this an extra 5 miles per hour when it came down to club head speed. And personally, I think I could have even got more with it, which is awesome. I mean, it was great fun to hit, to be fair, but it does show that having that longer shaft does help with the club head speed. Doesn't necessarily mean it's easy to hit, but it does increase that club head speed. So there you go. And then going on to the average, you know, carry 233 with this on average, only 229 with this. You know, the longest being 240 twice with this, so Long Tom, and only the longest on this being 239 yards. So on carry, the Long Tom won, and I'll go into why that won at, well, a bit further into the video, so stay tuned for that. But on carry, this one, total distance, as I mentioned, this was 261 yards and this was 259 yards on average. Both were equally as long, so this was 266 was my longest on the day, and this was also 266 my longest on the day. But obviously just that sort of more consistency with the ltdx meant that it just came out on top when it came to total distance, but only 2 yards. Ball speed was 148 with the ltdx and only 146 with the Long Tom. Now normally with ball speed it relates to obviously the swing speed of the club, so not a great smash factor with this, a lot better with this one. I topped 150 a few times with this. I didn't actually get this up to 150. I only got up to 149, which is the quickest I got there. So quite interesting there. And obviously maybe I wasn't hitting the face, middle of the face as much. I had a few near the end where I really nailed this in the middle of the face. I could feel it. It was great shots. But this, I don't think I really hit the middle. But then I couldn't really tell, to be honest, where this club was coming down because it's that longer shaft. Don't get me wrong, it felt very nice across the face, but I just wasn't too sure when I did hit the middle. So there you go. And then we get into launch angle. So launch angle for this was 11. 9 degrees, 11, I'll take it. It was a regular shaft as well. Well, this is stiff. I definitely am stiff for my swing. Being a colder day, actually, it's probably fine that was a regular, actually, to be fair, because I'm sort of on the cusp of regular or stiff. But 11 degrees with that, with a 9 degree head, not I'm quite happy with that, to be fair. Normally my launch angle was even worse than that. Long Tom launch angle was 10, so it was a little bit shorter. Well, a little bit sort of low angle, sorry, not shorter at all, low angle. But then this is when it makes interesting reading and explains why the carry was more. Because height, on average, was only 64 feet with the ltdx. Well, with the Long Tom, it was 68 feet. So even though this launch angle average was lower, it was getting more height than the ltdx, which comes down to spin. Clearly with this club, I was getting more spin than with the Cobra. So that club head speed obviously generally does mean if you're getting a higher club head speed, you're getting more spin with the club. And it did really show with this. And so it meant that I actually had better distance carry on average than the ltdx, which makes really quite interesting. I remember I watched a review of this as well. So Rick Shields got his hands on one with Peter Finch. I'm sure you guys watching this have heard of them before. And basically, Rick Shields, swings, what was he swinging? I think he was getting up to 120 miles an hour with this. Peter Finch is a lot quicker than Rick Shields when it comes down to driver speed. And he wasn't getting as much distance as Rick was, because Rick was swinging and getting the right spin numbers. But because obviously, Peter has a quicker swing, his spin was crazy. It was like the spin of a wedge. So it wasn't going anywhere, which makes the question as well, do you really want a longer shaft? Because number one, it's harder to control. But if you're already that sort of high speed player who's already got quite a high spin rate, all you're going to do is increase that spin because you're swinging faster, and therefore the ball's not going to go as far. So, makes you really think. For me, having more of a spin does help because my launch angle is so bad, so it does keep the ball in the air, which I definitely noticed with this. But still, overall, distance-wise, I was losing to the ltdx because of the rollout. So there's a little in-depth into the figures there. But then overall, who's the winner? And I've got to say it's a tie. I know I shouldn't say it's a tie. I know the whole point is I'm supposed to pick a winner, but I'm going to say it's a tie. I definitely felt on the day I could have got more out of this one, 100%. If it was a little bit warmer, and I just went for that little bit more. But when you're cold, you're quite tight, and I really didn't. In the ltdx, I've had this in the bag, and the figures were pretty much where I'd expect it, to be honest. So I definitely think on another day I could have won with this. But do I think if I put this head into this shaft and had them the same length, or put the ltdx into this shaft, do I think that then the Long Tom would win? No. I definitely think overall the ltdx is a better driver, and the only reason this has kept up with it is because of this shaft. So there you go. There is my versus video. A little bit weird, the fact that we've come out to a draw, and it's basically down, let's be honest, down to the shaft. Doesn't necessarily mean that this is a bad driver. But just be aware, if you go out, you've watched this video and go, oh, it's the same distance the ltdx, go and buy this, because you can pick one of these up for around on eBay at the moment, probably about £150 plus postage. So that's about what's that, $185, $190. While you can pick this up on eBay normally for under £100, so under $125. So you can save yourself 50 quid, 60 quid by going for this. And don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful driver. Really is. And remember to subscribe to the channel to watch a review of this, because I really did enjoy hitting this. So you could save yourself 60 quid there, but number one, it's probably illegal for competitions, because the majority of them are. And number two, the length of these, the majority that I'm finding on eBay have been cut down to the same length of that. And then if that's the case, this is not going to beat that. So overall, as I said, I'm giving it a draw, but if I really had to pick, I would go the ltdx head won it, definitely, and the Long Tom shaft beat the ltdx shaft, I think, in the other day, if we're going to go into it there. So there you go. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Do give it a like and comment down below, what's your favourite Cobra driver from over the years? And also, have you ever played with a longer shaft, so near that 48-inch, and what you think of it? And also, remember to subscribe to the channel and hit this video a like. Okay, guys, I'll catch you this weekend for the next ACS golf review. See you then. Bye-bye.